Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. So today I'm giving you part 2 of my problematic authors video. I previously did part 1, if you haven't seen it already, where I talked about Stephanie Meyer and Veronica Roth and why I no longer support their work. The next 2 authors on this list are Cassandra Clare and J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling, I'm sure, is not a surprise. I will explain my feelings on Cassandra Clare. I know a lot of people really love her work, so I'm gonna start with her. I have read Cassandra Clare's The Infernal Devices trilogy along with the Mortal Instruments series, and I have an unpopular opinion there. I actually like the Infernal Devices better. Part of the reason that I didn't like the Mortal Instruments, one, is that it was supposed to be a trilogy, and she extended the trilogy by 3 books for it to end how it ended in the 3rd book, which I thought was pointless. And before I get into all the details about why I stopped reading Cassandra Clare, I just want to point out that I am not saying that she is not a good author. So for the Cassandra Clare stands, let me finish what I have to say before you get into the comments. I am not at all denying that she's a good writer. I love the world that she created. I love the downworld. I love all of the intricate details of the Shadowhunter universe. I love how in each series you meet different characters that come up in other series and how it's all interconnected. She did a fantastic job. Her writing, well, for the most part, her writing is not my issue. One of the things that I most dislike about Cassandra Clare is that she is very tropey. And even though I like her world building, I dislike a lot of her characters, which is my own personal opinion. You can feel however you want to feel about it. It's not going to change my mind. Also, within her series, there tend to be a lot of sexism and girl hate, which I think is overdone. Around the time that I first started reading her series, I think I was in college, I guess, I started reading a little bit more about her, and I saw some people saying that she was known for being a cyberbully before she got famous, which is an issue in and of itself. But also, she used to write fan fiction about Ron and Jenny from the Harry Potter series. Obviously, the issue with that is that Ron and Jenny are brother and sister, and I think that's really weird. It seems like she has some sort of weird fascination with incest, and that crosses over into the Mortal Instruments series. Let me go ahead and say now that if you have not read the Mortal Instruments, you probably should not watch this part because I will spoil some things for you. So if you want to skip ahead to J.K. Rowling, I'll leave a timestamp. But for those of you who have read it, the fact that one of the major plot points is Clary and Jace thinking that they're brother and sister is really weird to me. You cannot tell me that you did not find that super cringy. Because even after they hear this, they're still lusting for each other, and it's just so strange. On top of that, I had an issue with the fact that there is an attempted rape scene and Sebastian tries to rape Clary. It's not only problematic in and of itself, but that's her brother. I personally have an issue when authors throw in an attempted rape scene just to add drama. This is not the first series that I've seen it in, and to be very clear, a lot of people complain about that scene because they say that Clary and Jace have a conversation, but then Clary doesn't really sit with it or think about it. It kind of just goes away. And Cassandra Clare did write a response, and if I can find it, I will link it in the bottom. And she goes on to say that, people respond differently to trauma, and she mirrored Clary's response off of her own experience. And I'm not knocking the way she did it. Like she said, I do agree that people respond to trauma differently. It's going to be different for everyone, and I'm not going to knock somebody for not having a certain reaction, because that is a part of rape culture that people need to confront and realize it's not the same for everybody. There's no way to be a textbook definition victim or survivor, so that has nothing to do with it. What bothered me about that, though, besides the fact that I have an issue with this being thrown into books randomly and there's no warning, and I'm a firm believer in trigger warnings, Cassandra Clare apparently is not, which I disagree with. But also, she writes this response about it, and that's all fine and good. However, there is a second attempted rape scene in the Mortal Instruments, and she doesn't address that at all. And I believe she said that a part of it was she wanted to prove how evil Sebastian was. I don't think that's a good reason, in my opinion. But also with this second scene in there, I believe it's in City of Glass, Aileen almost gets raped by a demon and Izzy saves her. And like, yeah, demons are evil or whatever, but if you're gonna address the original scene, I feel like you should address that as well. This one actually might have happened before the scene with Clary and Sebastian. And I think it's really insensitive to not believe in trigger warnings and then throw something like that in the same series twice. Even before the conversation about the attempted rape scenes came out, I had already unhauled all of her books. I had the complete Infernal Devices and Mortal Instruments series, but I just can't get behind the incest thing. I think it's really weird. I'm not at all shaming or throwing shade at people who like Cassandra Clare. Again, these are just my personal opinions. And like I said, the work that she has done is incredible. However, there are just some things that I can't ignore. And for that reason, I'm just not going to read any more of her work that comes out. At least I don't think so. I've been thinking about it and I am really interested in the dark artifices and everything, but the chances of me actually doing it are pretty slim, so it is what it is. The next author on this list is J.K. Rowling, or as Noria Reeds calls her, she who must not be named. Yes, I read Harry Potter. Yes, I loved it. It's one of my favorite series, and when the movies come on TV, I end up watching it every single time. However, I want to make it very clear that here on this channel, you are welcome to come as you are, and I do not agree with any of her transphobic comments. And to be honest, we all know that this is not the first time that she has revealed that she's pretty fucking problematic. So I believe it was back in 2018, people started calling her out for the lack of diversity in the Harry Potter series. And basically, instead of admitting that this series isn't diverse, which it is not, she basically started making shit up. And where we are right now as a society, people are starting to call for representation and diversity more than ever before. At the time that she had wrote the series, people were not calling for that like they are now. And I feel like a lot of times we want to give people second chances. However, in order to gain a second chance, in my opinion, I'm the kind of person that doesn't do second chances for people in real life. Once you fuck up, I'm pretty much done with you. I feel like in this situation, if she had just admitted that she didn't do a good job on the diversity and made a plan to do better in the future, I feel like she could have been forgiven. However, she didn't do that. If I remember correctly, there was a short story that was put up on Pottermore that was offensive to Native Americans, and people were calling her out on Twitter, and as far as I know, she did not respond to that at all. At the time that it happened, which I believe was about 2-3 years ago, I didn't see any response from her, which is really odd. In my opinion, I would think that you'd listen to marginalized groups, especially Native and Indigenous people, and want to rectify that, but apparently not. Someone also tweeted her in 2014 and asked why there weren't any Jewish wizards, and her response was Andrew Goldstein, Ravenclaw, Jewish wizard, which that would have been believable if there had ever been an Andrew Goldstein in the series, but there isn't. And at that time, it had been about 7 years since the series had been completed, and all of a sudden this wizard exists that we've never heard of. That's not believable. You made that shit up on the fly. Especially since some of the books are very heavily focused around Christmas time and Harry and Ron waking up on Christmas morning. She very easily could have given some sort of Jewish representation, but she didn't. And instead of admitting that she didn't, she made shit up. That's not how this works. You can't be an ally just by making shit up. You have to actually do the work. You have to promote marginalized groups, and she has very rarely done so. So most recently, she has made some very transphobic comments on Twitter, and I will leave a couple of links in the description explaining all of that if you are not aware. She did go on to write a very lengthy response to all of the backlash that she's gotten. I read the tweets that she put out after this happened, but I did not read her response because I don't think there's a point. She's gonna try to excuse herself like she's been doing, and I don't really care to hear what she has to say at this point. Because even all this time of her trying to cover her tracks, when the actors whose careers you have propelled feel the need to make a statement to counteract what you have already said, you should know that you're doing something wrong. Daniel Radcliffe, Bonnie Wright, Emma Watson, even though Emma Watson is pretty problematic in her own right, she has done and said some problematic shit that she's never apologized for. But when multiple actors are coming out and making a statement, when Warner Brothers, who produced your movies, has to come out and make a statement, when your publisher makes a statement that contradicts something that you have said, you should know that you are not doing something right. And instead of apologizing or even opening up a dialogue, she just goes on to defend herself and excuse herself. And this is how people don't learn. This is how you get canceled. And to be fully transparent, I am not against cancel culture. Once you have given someone enough times to genuinely apologize and learn from their actions and they continue not to, cut them off. I could literally rant forever about all of the things that she has done that have been problematic in like the last decade and a half, but I don't want to keep this video going on for too long. So again, just to be very clear, I do not support any of the things that she has said recently. Trans lives matter. And if I do end up doing a video on all of my Harry Potter stuff, I will be sure to link organizations that support trans people, and I will leave some in the description box of this video. So let me know what you thought about this video. If you are a fan of Cassandra Clare, that's fine. Like I said, her work is amazing. I personally probably won't read anything else that she has written. And again, if that's what you want to do, then you do it, because that's your business. I just made a different decision. But let me know how you feel about this video and about part 1. I know that there are some other authors who should probably be on this list. I've been hearing a lot of things about Sarah J. Maas, but I have not touched this series yet. So I'll get to it eventually. Maybe then I'll add another part. But until then, that's all I have for you. I'll see you in the next video.